All right. Happy Monday night. Hope you guys are having a good week. We're going to run it up for a little while, do a little Q&A, talk about all of the wonderful things that are happening in the digital asset space, and all the other things. It could be estate planning, tax mitigation, how to prepare for the coming liquidity event for anybody that is invested in utility assets, or anything else that you feel like is going to appreciate substantially during the next bull run. So just to hop into it, looks like there's a good number of people here in the chat. Appreciate y'all hopping in and asking good questions like you always do. But to begin with, I just want to touch on some of the awesome things that are coming to the XRPL for people here, that are interested in that. That's kind of my bias. I don't make any bones about that. So if you're here for the first time listening to it, it's not that I don't like other things. It's just what I spend my time on and what we're building on. So it's what I'm am interested in. So you got atomic swaps coming to the XRPL, which is going to be pretty cool. So for people that don't know, that's where you would have two assets that are escrowed on either side of a transaction. And once the smart contract in between them is executed, those two assets are swapped atomically, riskless and trustless with the other party based on the constraints within the smart contract. So nobody can manipulate the transaction, and it settles immediately. You get the other side of that, whatever you were transacting for, without having to worry about, them not sending it. Most transactions today are you pay somebody and they render a service or a product. It's pretty rare that they send you the product and then wait for you to pay them. But this time, you'll get the product or whatever it is on chain, digital representation of that product and the ownership for whatever your payment is immediately. So that is the atomic swap. And then you've got, I think that's XLS like 56D. And then you've got 64, 65, and 66, which is to borrow, lend, and earn on the XRPL, which is coming. We knew about XLS 38D and XLS 40 and the AMMs this time last year, and we still don't have XLS 38D and 40 implemented. They're still being voted on. So these things could be a whole nother year actually get implemented and voted on and rolled out on the XRPL. So, I'm always thinking through that. Timelines, people want to ask those. Nobody has a crystal ball. At least I don't. I was told earlier that I need to buy a crystal ball and like wave at it and look at it on the side over here. So it could be a long time before those things are actually implemented and at scale, but I'm excited that they're coming to the network. And it's definitely something we'll be utilizing for Digital Ascension Group, for our clients, and advising on in the future. So with that, we'll go ahead and get into the questions. If there are anything in particular or if there is anything in particular that you would like answered, please put it in the chat, and I will do my best to get to it and answer it thoroughly. So to kick it off, let's see, this person says I'll pick it up at about 5 a.m. in the UK. Appreciate you hopping on here. I know it's very late in the UK. It's going to be about 3 a.m. there, 6-hour time difference between me and you. So, hopefully you guys get some sleep over there and you can listen to this later. Marcin, T.O. Phil, I think that's how you say it, says, hi, Jake. For example, we have 5 trillion a day to settle. I'm assuming with Swift, with the speed of XRP, settlement 3 to 5 seconds, affect the increase in its price. If XRP settled slower, would the price be higher? That's a good question. So the more, not really, it's the volume on the network and the processing of payments. If it settled slower, the volume would stay higher longer, but there'd be less throughput, right? So I think if it was a slower settlement, there probably would be less adoption for what we're hoping for, and it wouldn't be instant. And so I actually asked Matt, can't think of Matt's last name right now. He's a developer. He used to work at Ripple. He's now working on IPFS, or interplanetary file storage system. I can't think of his last name. Anyway, he said that we need a implicit or explicit subnet to the XRPL to be able to scale to the amount of transactions that we would need to actually facilitate things. 30,000, 50,000, 100,000 TPS. Because right now we can only do like 1,500 max. He said 500 to 1,000. We've seen it, higher than that. So, but we are limited. And so until the side chains are implemented or there's Cobalt or something else. And I asked him about Cobalt and he was like, that's dead. Nobody's using it. That hasn't been worked on. But what he described we needed is exactly what Cobalt is. So anyway, that's not here or there, but that's what's going to be needed to actually scale and for Swift to settle the 5 trillion a day in transactions over the network. We're going to need something else. Same thing with Visa, MasterCard, a lot of these other payment providers. They're going to need a higher throughput on the TPS for the XRPL. So we need something. We need something else implemented to be able to scale to that. I don't know if that's the Exchange Bridge or if it's a subnet like he talked about, but hopefully that's coming. But I don't think that a slower settlement speed would provide any benefit. Atlantic Living, appreciate you always with the good questions. Thank you for the kind words also. Why is it that October, 6 months after the halving, is when the price appreciates expected? Why that time? This just tends to be when supply catches up to demand. Historically, we're in a weird spot. We've never had all-time high previous to the halving before. We've got an external driver of demand, a catalyst that hasn't existed with the ETFs and Bitcoin there for the spot ETFs. So that has played a role in the appreciation of Bitcoin and the acceleration of price appreciation previous to the halving. Again, not something that's ever happened before. Traditionally, you would have even another downside shortly after the halving, and then you would go into a bull market. So things have been truncated with the advent of the ETFs for this cycle. I think we are a lot closer to a top in Bitcoin than other people think. I think 75K is likely going to be the top for Bitcoin in this cycle. People can get mad about that. That's just my 2 cents. I could be completely wrong. I hope it goes to $250,000 and people make tons of money and I miss out like I have in the past. I don't think that's going to be the case though. So, but traditionally, you would go through a bear market. You would have price that went down. Costs of mining Bitcoin have now, after the halving, doubled. So people think about, people are going to get less rewards. Well, really the impact of that is now it costs twice as much to mine a Bitcoin. So you have to use the same amount or twice the amount of energy just to get half the Bitcoin that you would have got before. So it doubles the cost of one Bitcoin. So previous to the halving, it was like $10,000 to $20,000 worth of electricity cost to mine a Bitcoin. And now it's going to be somewhere between $20,000 and $40,000 worth of electricity cost just to get the same Bitcoin. So now I think the rewards are at 3.125. Maybe it's even less than that. Bitcoin per block, the rewards that you'll get for it. So it's normally that's the cadence in which it takes demand and supply to catch up. Right now, we've already got a constraint on supply. Again, different constraints than we have had in the past with the ETF and people buying. I think there's only been like 98,000 Bitcoin minted this year, and there's been 200 and almost 3 times that amount, like 2.8 times that amount of Bitcoin purchased this year off of exchanges. So that's why you've seen, supply and demand, price goes up. But there'll come a point where, and there's already been this point where the OTC desk didn't have any Bitcoin to sell because everybody's buying it up. You got all the ETFs along with MicroStrategy, and then Tether has also purchased a large allocation of Bitcoin over the last for the first 4 months of this year. So anyway, normally that would take longer because there would be less demand, and you would eventually get a drive in price, and then eventually that would roll into the altcoins. I think we're close to the roll into the altcoins point here for this cycle, and that's what we're all waiting for, right? If you're in position, if you've bought during the bear market, if you've DCA'd and accumulated good positions in a lot of the altcoins, this is what you're waiting for. So saw a few things start to run today, and I think that'll hopefully continue the rest of this week. I appreciate you guys here in the chat. Let's see. Here's a good one. David Thatch, Tratch. I don't know. Sorry if I butchered that. Says love your channel. Just wondering your thoughts on XRP's utility kicking in. Say we see $100 plus. Do you foresee volatility continuing as per bull cycles, or more stable price? It'd be much more stable. So the higher the market cap or the more volume of trading that you would have over a network, the more stable the price would be. Just like, think about it this way. So you've got an index, so like the S&P 500 or the NASDAQ or the Dow, it takes billions of dollars to move it 1%, one direction or the other, up or down, right? So as there's more value in an index or anything, the volatility is going to be truncated. There's just because people aren't going to have the liquidity to move it one direction or another once it gets to a high value. So, and you mentioned utility kicking in here. So I think that we'll get price floors for things as we move up. These private networks, these side chains, especially once we get the X-chain bridge, and there's transactions and volume moving on those side chains that can move onto the main net, and there's liquidity there to support those. I think that those will cause price floors, right? So, but I'm speculating here, but play along with me. Let's say we had, the DTCC builds out Project Ion, and it's running in tandem with the back end of the stock market right now. There's just not enough liquidity on the main net to be able to settle those transactions. If we did see a rise in XRP that was able to meet the level of liquidity necessary for those transactions, at that point, they might start utilizing the main net to be able to settle those transactions. And now you've got enough volume, sustained volume on a daily basis that would cause price stability or a price floor for XRP at that level. So that's my thesis. That's what I think is going to happen. Could be wrong, but I've done enough research on it and know some good people. And so that's kind of my expectation. Hopefully that answers your question. Thank you for the super chat, Brenda. It's still crazy to me that there's people that want to watch and tune in and ask really good questions like you guys. Just a guy like y'all that's done a lot of research, and I have a specific expertise, and I've been able to surround myself with other people that are a lot smarter than me and learn from them, and then kind of piece all that together and be able to share that with an audience. So appreciate you guys taking the time out of your schedule and watching and wanting to learn. And it shows. I never would have thought I would have had 1 million views on YouTube, but that happened today. So pretty cool. This is a good question. Velva921 says, who are 3 entrepreneurs that have taught you or inspired you? 1 to 2 pieces of wisdom you feel like sharing on your entrepreneurial journey. I watch a lot of people. Patrick Bet David and Valuetainment, and a lot of the stuff that I'll say this, and this isn't really, I mean, this has been echoed by a lot of people, but you get to choose what goes in your mind on a daily basis and what you spend your time on. And you can, hang out on Facebook and see all the drama, or watch CNN or these other news outlets that have just doom and gloom and the world's going to crap, blah, blah, blah. Or you can spend your time feeding your mind with useful things and motivational things and things that are going to help drive you forward. I do the latter. I try to wake up every morning and not jump straight into emails. I go for a walk or do my cardio, and I listen to motivational things. Or if I'm reading a book, I'll read the book. It's an audio book, and try to gather some information, learn something early in the morning when I'm fresh. To start my day that way, start it off on a good note, and not immediately go into the crap storm that tends to be general media. I will say X is kind of a better deal than that. Most of the time there's some pretty good information on there, but it's also, kind of both. But again, you can decide what accounts you follow. So, Patrick Bet David, he has a framework for his life that I find pretty interesting. And I mean, we could get into technical stuff on sales and marketing, and Alex Hormozy has a ton of good stuff around that. If you haven't read either one of his books, $1 Million Offers or $1 Million Leads, or 100 million offers, $100 million leads. Both those are fantastic if you want actionable, like, things that you can implement in your business. And him and Layla put out fantastic content regularly around how to scale your business from 1 million and up, or even just getting started in business, realizing that it's just going to suck. and it's going to be hard, and that's what hard feels like, and it's okay, and that's what's expected. I think a lot of people get into entrepreneurship because they think it's sexy. It's not. Most of the time, it's not fun. You spend a lot of time wondering if what you're doing is even going to be worth it, or if it's going to work out. And you even if you know that what you have people want, and you have a way to scale it and it's going to be useful, sometimes you bite off more than you can chew, or there's other things that come into your life that cause problems. And it never gets easier. You just get better. So this is the framework that Patrick has that I find useful. He looks at his life in 4 segments. So for the first 20 years, excuse me, let me get some water. For the first 20 years, his thesis is just don't mess up. Don't put yourself at a disadvantage. Hopefully you don't, have a child early on, or go to jail. You're in the wrong place at the wrong time with the wrong person. Just don't put yourself at a disadvantage to everybody else. The next 20 years, from 20 to 40, you build an expertise in something where you're able to, build a company, or set yourself up and invest, or do things that allow you to become financially free during that period of time. And it's never too late to do that. This is just his framework and something that I've adopted for myself. And so, build that niche expertise that you're able to provide value in the marketplace through, and then build a business around that. Or work for somebody else and help them build their business or vision around that, and be the number 2 or number 3 guy that has equity in it, and make a ton of money. Right. And really, like, I've kind of chopped that even down further, like 20 to 30, work for somebody else and get a whole bunch of skills, and figure things out so that you can provide value to the marketplace at scale. And that's not easy to do. It takes, I worked for a Fortune 500 company. So I've worked in enterprise situations and helped scale locations. I've done door-to-door sales. I've done guerrilla marketing. I've done capital raising, M&A, how to, work with business owners to scale their business and exit. Just a lot of different things. I managed inventory, logistics. There was a lot of different things that I did in my 20s that have allowed me to put myself in a position where I have a very broad understanding of business, and then I can apply that to myself or other people that I work with, right? And then my degree was in finance, and so I have a background in that with a decent competency there. And so now I'm building a couple different businesses in my 30s, and hopefully one of those works out, or the investments we have work out to where I have the financial freedom to be able to move to the next phase. The next phase is the first two. The third phase, you kind of reinvent yourself. So from 40 to 60, you've done really well in a certain career path. You've been able to set yourself up, and now you can, and sometimes it's still in business. You're able to reinvent yourself in business, or maybe you chase the passions that you didn't have time for when you were younger, but you're still young enough that you can enjoy and travel and do things, right? So maybe it is you want to travel, or you want to become an artist or a musician, or there's some form of self-expression that you forewent earlier in your life that you now have the means to really double down on and enjoy over that period of time. And so you reinvent yourself in some capacity between maybe 20 or 40 and 50, and then again between 50 and 60. And then really the whole last section of your life beyond that is just dedicated to giving back in some way. Some people are ministers, some people are mentors, some people are philanthropists, some people are politicians. There's a lot of different ways that you can give back to your community or the world, or there's a cause that you have in your heart that you feel you were put here to help. And so anyway, I just really like how he's put that together. And it's kind of a framework that I think a lot of the successful people that I follow have followed that framework. I've noticed that I've kind of found my niche a little bit earlier than I think most people do. Most people don't really figure out how they're going to really be able to scale and be successful until they're like mid to late 30s is what I've seen. People just don't have it together until then for whatever reason. And sometimes I feel like I don't have it together. So anyway, yeah, that would be one. And then like I said, Alex Hormozy, I started watching him when he had like 2,000 or 3,000 subs on YouTube. And I was like, how do you not have hundreds of thousands of followers? And now he's got millions, right? A couple years later. Because what he puts out is good, tangible stuff that you can actually implement in your life and in your business to help you scale. So, I mean, we can talk about, I went through Built to Sell, which was it's a book. If you haven't read it, I would encourage you to do so. John Warlow is the gentleman that wrote that, and he put together a program. No, sir. What do you need? No, sir. I'm on here. Go tell mama. Love you. Sorry, kiddo. Anyway, yeah, Built to Sell. If you haven't read that book, John Warlow put together like a system, basically, that's 8 different pieces of how to scale a business and make it the most valuable when you go to exit. And so I used to work with people, still do sometimes, to help them scale their business and exit strategically, or to bolt things on, grow their business. There's a lot of different things you can do, but eventually you basically step out of your business and you're an owner instead of an operator. And that's probably, if I was going to pass out a resource and you were an early entrepreneur, that's definitely a direction I would send people. So really good question. Thank you. Let's see here. Here's a good one. Pay Me an XLM says, "Hey Jake, How's it going, man? Can your office set up a structure for someone seeking to purchase and operate their local semi-pro basketball team? Yeah, we can. We could help you acquire it and structure that the right way if that's something that you're looking to do. We actually, me and a business partner had talked about buying an XFL team and moving it to a jurisdiction that doesn't have pro football. And so I think it can be very lucrative, especially if you have the right fan base. Basketball, any of those sports teams. And I like the smaller stuff like that. I'm not a big sports guy. I don't have time to watch a whole lot of sports. I used to watch a lot of golf when I was younger. Little football. I'm a fair weather fan when it comes to stuff here for Dallas. So if the Stars or the Mavs or the Cowboys are doing well, then I will watch just because other people around me are excited about things. And I want to make sure that I can have a conversation if somebody talks to me about it. But yeah, we can definitely help you structure that and set you up. So let me know when you have the money to do it, and we're happy to help you with it. Let's see here. Lots of good people here in the chat. Appreciate you guys joining on a Monday night. Y'all could be doing lots of other things, spending time with your family, and you're hanging out here. I will mention here at the top, we do have the Mastermind. If you like these, we do these every Monday and Saturday in there. Get a little bit further down the rabbit hole in, some of the conversations that I have with different professionals that I talk to. We have other experts that come up and speak about different things, answer questions around, whatever you would want, whether it's the estate planning, the LLC, trusts, all that. Carbon 2 tends to be a little bit more in-depth on those topics. We had a really good discussion last week around like the full scope of estate planning for a family office and the different ways that you can pass money between entities to keep it circulating in an ecosystem and build valuations for the companies that you're investing in. So happy to run that down here, if that's something you guys are interested in, but it is a bit more advanced on the estate planning side. XRP Pappy has a good question. He says, realistically, how long can Japan hang on? I would have thought they'd already folded, man. The BOJ is now there's talk of the Fed trying to bail out the BOJ. I don't know. I'm waiting on oil. That's really the catalyst that I'm looking for. We need a spike in oil. I thought we were going to get it with the conflict in the Middle East last week, and that tampered down. And so I don't know what that's going to be, but that's what I'm looking for, is a big spike in oil, and that's going to drive their economy over an edge and basically force them to react at that point. So until we get that, I think they could probably trot it along for a couple more months if they needed to, honestly. Mr. X says, my mind is blown, deep fried dead. Tell me this is not going to go to 2027, 2030 without us at least getting a crumb. I'll say this. Stablecoin regulation is going to cause implementation in utility, right? We have an actual designation for a bridge asset in that. The UK also has stablecoin regulation for bridge assets that they're going to implement. If you're positioned in, XRP, XLM, maybe even XDC, I think that those are going to fall under those designations and allow financial institutions to start using them. Ripple and their lawsuit with the SEC, I'm hopeful brings some type of framework for how other people can come to market with digital assets. They did file their rebuttal today to the allegations and the demand for $2 billion in damages by the SEC. Their total assessment was, I thought it was reasonable. They said, hey, look, we don't think it should exceed $10 million for the fines and, not registering our securities if there were any security sales. Here You also had two people in the SEC step down today because of the conflicts of interest in Debtbox's case. Apparently, there's just a lot of things that they're being asked to do that people are uncomfortable with, just ethically. And it's a lot of egg on the SEC's face at this point. So I don't think they're going to last a whole lot longer on the case. We should get some type of clarity from the judge, I believe by the 6th of May is her, or actually that's the SEC's final date to rebut Ripple's rebuttal. And then the judge at that point would be able to work through everything that's been given and make a ruling. There's a lot of talk about, pushing it to the Supreme Court and an appeal if it went toward Ripple versus the SEC. I don't think that's going to be the case. And the reason for that being whatever precedent is given in this case is going to allow the SEC to go after other people. So whatever the judge says, because there's going to be some fine levied against Ripple for their early sales. There is. And if she says, hey, all the companies that are coming to market with these ICOs and token offerings, they have to register as a security until there's a certain point of decentralization, or maybe it's token warrants or options until there's a certain level of decentralization on the network, or there needs to be some type of trigger event where they're no longer considered a security. And I think that'll be delineated by the judge in her judgment and whatever she puts out. And people might view that as a bad thing, right? But I mean, really, XRP already has the designation that it's not a security, and then Ripple will be off the hook. They'll pay their fine, whatever it's going to be, and then they'll go about their business and IPO and do all the other wonderful things that we look forward to, right? They'll have this black cloud removed from them, and it'll be over other people in the space. But that'll give the SEC ammo to go after all these other companies and use that precedent against them and how they came to market. So I don't know who's on the chopping block after that. My expectation is, Ethereum probably has something to go through there. The case with Coinbase also could set precedent as, basically the exchanges would have to be broker dealers and get those licenses or be acquired by a bank or another institution that has a broker dealer license and can transact securities. Uphold has that, so they don't have to worry about it. But all the other ones, Kraken is a bank. They operate under an interesting exemption there in Wyoming. But I don't think they have a broker dealer because they're not allowed to sell certain things OTC to anybody domestically in the U.S. They can do international, but they can't do domestic to the U.S. So anyway, I know that was a long-winded answer for 2027 to 2030, but in my opinion, no. I think you're going to get at least something during this bull run, and I think people will be able to take profit. There's been people waiting 6-7 years on some of this stuff when they bought in on XRP higher than where it is. So my expectation is those people will be vindicated and will likely have some profits at some point significantly prior to, I would say, before 2025. So just my 2 cents. Scroll back up here in the comments. Let's see. This is an interesting question. Bebop Boop. Anyway, he says, how much is gas where you are? I think we were at like somewhere between, I think the lowest I've seen is like $3.28, and then the highest is closer to $4 here in Dallas per gallon. So that's, Texas isn't always the cheapest, but it's never the most expensive. I was recently in California a few months ago, and it was like $6 something. New York, see any gas stations when I was there, so I couldn't tell you what it was in New York, but it's probably a lot higher than what it is here in Texas. So let's see. All right, let me get back to where we were here in the chat. Much love. Appreciate you, CJ. He says, will all the stock exchanges be on the XRPL for the May 28th T+1 movement? You don't need this. You don't need digital assets for T+1. I would love to say yes, but no. If it's just T+1, it's not T+0. No, you don't need instant settlement for that. You just need everybody to be on the ISO messaging standard, and T+1. So, there's been a lot of things that have come and gone with ISO, and payments getting faster, and the implementation of that standard so that they can do that. I was telling people in the mastermind this earlier. That's a precursor to the instant settlement, but until you have T+0, India's T+0, they could be using a digital asset to settle in their siloed ecosystem that's on a proprietary ledger or a private ledger that's not on a public ledger. Because that's the only way that you can get T+0. They said that they're 2 to 3 hours for settlement. So that's still not instant finality like it would be with distributed ledger technology. So I don't know what they're using to facilitate that, but it's still like same day instead of next day, which is T+1. We're at T+2 right now. And I've talked about how that could cause problems for the stock market because Bitcoin isn't. They can't rebalance quick enough if there was a deep enough downturn in that. So anyway, like I said, I would love for that to be the case, but that I don't believe so. Winston, he says, appreciate your time. Thank you for being here. What do you think is the most misunderstood in crypto and within the XRP community from a point of view, someone actively speaking with CEOs and in the business circle? Just how early we are. I continuously have conversations with people that can see the vision, right? And that's why they're here. They're building in the ecosystem. These people that I deal with are high-level professionals that have pedigrees and are working with financial institutions. They're building tech that is interoperable with legacy systems, and people just don't get it yet. You still have to explain the problem to people when you're trying to pitch them on why your solution is effective. And until this stuff's really illustrated, I do that for people, but I have to explain the problem, right? I'm like, okay, do you use a payment app? And they say yes. And then I say, okay, PayPal, Venmo, Cash App, Wise, whatever you're using. When you get money to it, you get two options to send it to your bank account. You get instant for a fee, instant, or 2 or 3 days for free, right? And everybody says, yeah, that's right. And I say, okay, well, what if you could have instant for free? And they're like, well, yeah, I would do that for sure, or I talk about GME and AMC and Wall Street bets and that problem for the stock market. And there's no accounting mechanism across all the brokers and the clearinghouses. And so because of that, they oversold the stock, and then they had to front all this money because it's T+2 settlement. And they ended up freezing the stock because there's too much volume on it, right? Which wouldn't be a problem if you had instant settlement between the brokers and the clearinghouse and a distributed ledger or an accounting mechanism across everybody so that you could never sell more than you had for the shares. But until you illustrate those things for people and you give them something that's tangible that they've experienced the problem with, they don't even really see the problem that this stuff solves. And a lot of people just aren't educated. I would just say most misunderstood in crypto. A lot of people still think it's a complete scam. They don't understand the utility of a distributed ledger network, and that it's immutable and trustless, and the smart contract component that creates efficiencies for transactions the velocity of money that could be increased across an economy by implementing this stuff, and the effects that would have. When you tell people, hey, you could get paid same day instead of every 2 weeks, like what would that do for your life? Help a lot of people out, right? I mean, you base like all of your debits for your bills come out right after you get paid, right? People orchestrate their whole lives around when they get paid. And so if you were getting paid daily or hourly while you were working, I mean, that frees up that capital, and then you're able to go spend it in the economy, and things just move faster. So I think that that's misunderstood. I think a lot of people just really don't understand the implications or the benefits that this technology brings. And then within the XRP community in particular, most misunderstood thing within the XRP community. I think a lot of people still lean on Ripple and what they've done with XRP and believe that that's what's going to be the catalyst for price appreciation. I don't. I think that it'll be a separate company that utilizes XRP to settle, or a different financial institution, or somebody else completely outside of Ripple that actually brings real world use to the asset. I think a lot of people still think Ripple and XRP are synonymous. I see that mistake all the time, which is understandable, right? All these other companies, you look at the Ethereum Foundation and ETH, and again, that just goes back to the education in the space for the average person. They don't know how to delineate between a company that works on the software and the software itself. It's a network, and that it actually has something that moves value, and there's a token that provides that within the ecosystem or the protocol. So that would probably be that one. And then, yeah, just super blessed, to be able to provide value and have conversations with the people that I work with on a regular basis. We're building things in this space. We're actively working on things to tokenize a specific product and create ecosystems that'll drive adoption and create efficiencies for other businesses using the protocol that we're developing, or the DApp. So with that, I'm able to reach out to certain people and say, hey, I have this is what I'm working on. Would you like to partner? Or, I've built out a full scope of things that we need to be able to get to market and work. And it just so happens that a lot of people have specialized and created companies that deal with those problems, right? They've been in the ecosystem long enough that they've already built out the solution. So I'm fine with paying somebody else that's already built the solution and does it way better than I would. And so I'll just use their API and use the integration and get to market and provide the value of all those things in one ecosystem. So anyway, yeah, great question. I don't know if those are the same answers that other people would give, but that's just what I see from the conversations that I'm having. Let's see here. This is a good one. Brevity says, Brevity? There you go. Jake, would you still recommend setting up a Wyoming LLC if I want to move to the UAE, not planning on re-signing U.S. citizenship? I assume you're international if you're saying re-signing. No, I would not set up an LLC in Wyoming. If you plan to move out of here and you don't want to be tied to the U.S., there might be specific reasons for using a Wyoming entity, but for your estate planning, if you're gonna live internationally and not domestic to the U.S., I would set it up in whatever jurisdiction you plan on living in long term, or something that's close by, or somewhere you plan on visiting on a regular basis. We have clients that set stuff up in the Caymans or Bahamas, or that area, because they plan on snowbirding down there when things are cold wherever they are, and so you can do it that way. You just want to be aware of whatever laws govern that jurisdiction. Most of the time, you do have to spend a certain amount of time there to maintain your citizenship. And you will likely have double tax treaties if you are a citizen somewhere else that you'll have to work into your estate plan. The UAE is a fantastic jurisdiction for taxes and growth and business. Been blessed enough to go there twice now, to Dubai. Plan on going to Bahrain and Iraq and a few of the other Emirate states, next time I'm over there. So I would set it up there if you have the opportunity. We provide the service for the LLC here in the States. I don't I could probably reach out to a few people in my network and get you access to an estate planner there in the UAE that we could work with. So if you want to email me, Max says Matt Hamilton. Thank you, Max. It's way down here, but I appreciate you reminding me of his last name. If you want to email me or our team at info@digitalfamilyoffice.io, I will reach out. That's probably somebody that I need to have on my radar anyway for the UAE and estate planning there. But I'll find you someone if you want. Atlantic Living says, Jake, did you get a chance to talk to Aaron G regarding the capital gains changes to capital gains proposed in Canada? He must be clearly exasperated. I'm sure that he's probably got a large demand for people looking for his services right about now, with the capital gains going to like 66 and 66.7%. That's insane, man. I can't believe, like, what are you left with? Like, why would you even invest at that point? The government's just going to take all of it. That goes back to taking loans against your assets, right? You continue to let them appreciate. You don't sell them, and you just take leverage against them. That's not ever taxable. It doesn't matter what jurisdiction you're in. So if you're there in Canada, and again, he helps the majority of the people that we work with set their stuff up in the Caymans or the Bahamas, outside of Canada. So yeah, I'm sure he's probably getting a lot of inquiries about getting the hell out of Canada. I hate to see that, because Canada, like, they have so much other promising things there, and just the government, it's not so great, man. I will say the one benefit you do have in Canada is you have no lifetime gift tax threshold. So you can wait till after price appreciation and then gift your stuff out of there. I think there is an exit tax associated with that. So just be aware of those things. But I can't believe they're doing that. Also, what do we see this morning? Warren introduced a potential bill to levy 1% wealth tax on crypto holders each year, or assess a 1% tax if you didn't even sell anything. That's crazy, man. Why? Why do I owe you 1% of what I made on the year when I didn't even transact with it or do anything with it? Why would I want to sell it or take loans against it just to pay the taxes? It's like the estate tax or the capital gains tax on stuff for the appreciation when you never even realized it. Like, if they do that against farmland, then people are going to have to sell off the farmland, just pay the taxes. It eats away at the infrastructure and any wealth that people have accumulated. Makes people want to leave, just like we're talking about with Canada here. Let's see here. That's a good question. I get this one often. Brandon Rock has asked, what cold storage wallet do you recommend for XDC, XLM, and XRP? XRP in particular, I really like Zum or X-Man or whatever Zaman now, that We'd Say When put together. If you get a Tangent card, you can have it right there on your phone and use the Tangent card to sign the transactions. I like that. You don't have to write down the keys. Don't lose that card. Make sure you have a backup card that you've attached to that account, just in case you do lose it. But that, I like that. If it's for XDC and XLM, decent. I've used Trezor and Ledger and Decent and EliPal and What's the other one? Engrave. There's tons of different products out there. I like Decent the best. It's got the best screen. It allows you to access stuff. It's easier, it's more intuitive, and it has the biometric sensor to be able to sign transactions. So that's my favorite and my recommendation. Let's see here. Thank you, Mr. Bottom of the Bottle. I feel called to do a lot of what I do. I don't know that I've ever shared this before. I was 4 years ago now, I was given a goal, and I don't know how to explain that to other people. I sat down and wrote down what I wanted and felt like it was here, this is for you. This is what you're supposed to do. And at the time, I didn't have the knowledge base. I didn't have the resources. I didn't have the network. I didn't have the money. I didn't have any of the things that I needed to accomplish those things. But I felt like the universe or God or whatever you want to call it gave that to me to do. And that's my potential. And I was going to be pushed toward that. I was going to be helped toward that. And here 4 years later, I feel like what I wrote down is an actual very likely possibility of happening, which is crazy. God or the universe moves things into your life. Because all you got to do is be paying attention and be in alignment with whatever your purpose is or what you're given to do. And I think, he helps you along, or she helps you along, agnostic. I don't know what you want to call it. Everybody has a different religion, but if you believe there's something up there, that's what's guiding me. So appreciate you saying that. And hopefully it's helping people. If it's just one person that starts thinking about their life and their estate and what they're going to do and how this wealth could be used to benefit other people in their ecosystem or community or the world, or like I talked about that philanthropic piece at the end of life, how can you give back and make life better for other people when you've been blessed, right? So anyway, I appreciate you saying that, and just felt compelled to share a little bit. Jose says, thank you for the super chat, brother. It's very much appreciated. Do you know the public trading company? Do you know what public trading companies hold XRP? I know one for sure. I'll say it this way. There was a slide that was put out by R3 in 2017 where they worked through the timeline of the adoption of distributed ledger technology and the implementation within the financial infrastructure. In that slide deck, they had a lot of different businesses on there. Android, Google, Tesla, Facebook, Uber, Airbnb, anything that had international currency exchange or employees in multiple jurisdictions that would need a treasury to be able to pay people across borders definitely might use XRP, right? That includes financial institutions. Ripple works with a ton of those. Medico works with a ton of those. R3 works with a ton of those. There's a lot of these people that have built out enterprise solutions and are working on real world problems that utilize XRP to settle or potentially settle within their network. And the companies that they work with or partnered with that use their technology would benefit if they held XRP on their balance sheet. There's 1,700 pre-allocated contracts that Ripple has for the escrow that weren't disclosed in the lawsuit. People always talk about a lot of the stuff that came out around the SEC, Bill Hinman and the emails and a lot of stuff to do with ETHgate. That's finally getting some light right? But they really don't talk about the 1,700 pre-allocated contracts that were all redacted that came out from Ripple's side, right? So anyway, yeah, I'm very confident that the publicly traded companies do hold XRP on their balance sheet, just based on conversations I've had, and the way that they would be able to do that, and I speculate on this because it should be listed as an asset, but Ripple doesn't hold it as an asset on their balance sheet. It's a zero value. So those companies, I guess, could be doing the same. But in my mind, I would just put it under software because that's what it is, right? And that's, we work with people that use these assets within their business. And when they purchase them, they can write them off because it's software expense. So it's my guess. But yeah, there are definitely some that do currently hold XRP. Here's one. Ms. Sanchez. When you're paying taxes for crypto, the taxable event is based off the most recent taxable event. Example, if I bought XRP in January 2024 and then buy again in July 2024, does it go by most recent? Neither one of those is a taxable event because you just purchased it. But if you were to sell it, it would depend on how you do your accounting. So if you use FIFO or LIFO, okay, I always like to use FIFO, first in, first out. So in that instance, if you use that type of accounting, the purchase that you made in January of 2024 would be the first piece that you sell, right? First in, first out. So that way you get the longest time frame for the assets being held and hopefully get to the long-term capital gains threshold of 12 months, and then would just be assessed the 15 or 20% taxes associated when you liquidated or sold those assets. If you did LIFO, you'd never really ever get to the original ones you bought. You would just be buying and immediately selling the new ones, and you'd probably incur short-term capital gains on those. And you would be assessed, at whatever your income tax bracket is for this year. So if it's substantial, if it's, you're married and it's more than $600,000 that you're going to liquidate, you're going to be looking at, depending on what state you live in, potentially like 45-50% tax if you live in California, 37.5% to 42% in some other states. So I would just make sure that you're using FIFO for your accounting, which is first in, first out. Utility Maximus. He says, I do not have an exit plan for my digital assets. How do I design an exit plan, and where do I find the information? Fantastic question. Happy to walk people through this because I get it all the time. And I also see people that have exit plans that aren't really well thought through. So I will, kind of give you a framework for this. Where are you going? You're going to work back from there. Okay. So and you don't have to adopt this. I'm just telling you my framework. Okay. My definition of financially free is you make twice the amount of your expenses every single month from passive income. Okay. So let's say you need $10,000 a month to live. If you made $20,000 a month in passive income, you're financially free because you really wouldn't have to work if you didn't want to, right? You're getting double the amount you need to live every single month. And so if you just pay your bills and live your life and then stack the rest back, you're accumulating more and more months to live without having to work. And everybody, you have emergencies, things come up, your car breaks down, stuff happens. So you've always got money put back and you're okay. To do that, you need assets that appreciate, hold their value, or appreciate, and also cash flow. So, that could be a business. It could be real estate properties. It could be staking for your digital assets. It could be dividend paying stocks. It could be annuities. It could be all kinds of things. Okay. Whatever that is, figure that out. how much money do I need to put into something that I feel is safe and sustainable, and maybe even diversify across a few different things that produce that amount of income for you each month. And then, okay, now that I know that number, I know what I'm going to buy. What price point do I need to get my stuff to that I feel comfortable with liquidating and leaving a moon bag? Okay. And that's how I would figure out my exit plan. I see a lot of people that are arbitrarily like, I'm going to take 10% here and 30% here. But for what? How are you going to mitigate the taxes? What is that going to do for you? Are you just going to burn through the money and live on it? Or are you going to buy something with it? Like, how's that work? So I'll tell you one that I heard that was great. Mondo, if you guys don't follow him, he's on Twitter, and sharp guy. He trades crypto for a living, lives in the UAE, in Dubai, sharp. Okay. He bought Solana at the bottom and went heavy on Solana at the bottom when FTX collapsed. And he had price points. He knew exactly when and how much he was going to take off the table to buy more condos there in Dubai, because he knew what he could get for cash flow off of those every single month. He knew that they were going to be rented. He had a partner that could do that and facilitate that for him. And so when Solana got to $35 each, he sold 30% of what his bag was and bought 2 condos. And then he waited till it got to 100. And then he sold, I think he sold another 30 or 40% of his bag. And then he bought 4 more condos. Right. And I don't know what he's got now. I don't know if he took profit again. It got to like $200. So, and he left it. He was like, the rest rides, you know? But that's the way you want to look at that. You're like, okay, if it gets here, I know that I can take this much. I can put it in these assets. They're going to cash flow and pay me. And then I'm free from my job. And I don't have to trade my time for money. That's how I would back into an exit strategy. I would figure out, what my financial freedom number was, figure out what assets I was going to buy to make sure that that was covered, and then figure out what price points I needed to exit at with how much of my bag to be able to accomplish that. So, I've talked about this before. If you want to, some people want to pay their house off. Don't pay your house off. Go buy a multifamily property that cash flows, and use leverage to do it, right? Maybe you have to have a partner to get the loan. But if you had 25 or 50% down on a multifamily property that cash flows $300,000 a year, even if you're paying everything else, you got a management company, you got to service the debt, you're still going to be 100 to the green, right? And that's definitely enough to cover your house payment, unless you're living in a McMansion somewhere, which good for you if you are, but it should be more than enough to at least cover the insurance, taxes, and the note. And then you don't have to pay it off. That it's going to be covered every single month. And you can set up automations. You can pay a payment company to make sure that happens. Anyway. And then you get the depreciation on the property that you can write off against the income, is the other big piece there. So that's the way I would think about that. Hopefully, I know I ramble on, but hopefully that's valuable for you. Let's see here. Oh man, you guys are running it up in the chat. We're already an hour in. I'm going to try to be a little more concise with the answers here. Thank you for the Q&A. Do you think regulations for crypto will be implemented this year? Stablecoins in particular, yes. The rest of the crypto market, I think we don't get anything real clarity from Congress or anything until 2025. Frank D says, question I have for you is, I can't fathom Brad and whichever other exec at Ripple have 1 billion plus coins. If the price were to 1,000 per coin, they will be trillionaires. What are your thoughts? Yeah. I told one of my employees this earlier today. You are paid in proportion to the problem that you solve and how irreplaceable you are. Okay. And if you're solving a problem for 8 billion people at scale, you should be compensated for that, right? He's had to go, all those executives, him and Chris both have had to go through a lot of crap to get here. David included, all of them. Ashish, all of them. And they've been successful. They've been able to pull it off. And so, people have a hard time comprehending that amount of money. It's not like it's not tangible. It's not in their bank account. This would be way more liquid than private equity in a company or even public equity in a company. And I do think that they would be able to leverage loans against it and do all kinds of stuff with it. I think they'll do a lot of good with it. I think they're inherently good people. They want to help others. Some of the stuff that exists on the internet that people find for XRP, I think that they've put a lot of that out there so that people would find it and the right people would be involved with it. And I think they deserve that, right? If they're really able to bring this new financial system in and shore up the financial system and remove the fiat debt system that we currently live in that sucks the wealth from the bottom 99% and pulls it to the top, and people don't even realize it, right? I understand the game because I've done enough to study it and I've been around the people that play it at a high level and they know the rules. But the average person has no idea how all this stuff works. And they get taken advantage of. So if they're able to solve that and people are actually able to build up wealth and save wealth again, and they're able to, increase economic output and efficiencies by bringing this stuff in, I'm fine with them making that much money. More power to them. I think it's well deserved. So anyway, that's my 2 cents on it. Will they be allowed to keep it all? I have no clue. Maybe some of those 1,700 pre-allocated contracts are also a portion of what they have. But I would be perfectly fine if they ended up with 1 billion tokens and it went to $1,000 a piece and they were trillionaires, because the value that they're going to bring to the entire planet with this technology would be well worth the payment to them. Utility Maximus says Jake Claver for SEC chair. No, thank you. I can't imagine being in a position of that level of authority and having the scrutiny, like, because you're damned if you do and damned if you don't. Same thing with the president, right? Like, if it gets to you, it's a problem. And you probably have access to information that other people don't even want to know about. The stress, like, you see people go into that office and what happens to them. I want a seat at the table. I'll tell you that. I do want to have some influence. I want to be on boards that are part of companies that work at a large scale and have influence in different parts of the economy, and be able to provide some oversight and input there to be able to actually change things and help people. But I don't think a regulator, you're too constrained as a regulator to actually implement things and make change. And you see that, right? Like, I'm sure he has people in his ear telling him what he can and can't do, even though when he knows completely different, right? You've seen him teach the courses at MIT and then go from that to how he is now. Just, I don't want to say he's a pawn, but he's definitely on the boards as a chess piece. He's not the one pulling the strings. I'd rather be one of the people pulling the strings personally. So, and maybe you have to go through that to get there. I don't know, but yeah, that's my 2 cents on. I don't really want to sit in that position. Edward says, "Hey Jake, was wondering if you think the private ledger will ever combine with the public ledger, and if so, will it help the price of XRP? And what do you think this will happen?" You have to have enough liquidity on the main net to be able to provide that to the side chain or the private network for them to utilize it, right? You have these walled gardens, and until there's enough liquidity on the main net to provide the liquidity in those ecosystems for the level of transactions that they're moving there, it's going to stay the way it is. You need something to force price up on the main net. And maybe that's a Shane Ellis theory, where the exchanges become illiquid and lock up because Tether's no longer in the ecosystem. That seems like a likely scenario at this point if Tether were to get sanctioned. You could also have implementation for settlement of the back end of the stock market. You could have an ETF where they funnel liquidity from other sectors into XRP very quickly via BlackRock. There's a lot of different pieces that could move into place to provide that, but that is the constraint that would be required in order for the private ledgers to be able to be interoperable and settle through the mainnet and use XRP and drive price, in my opinion. 3D or J3, do your research. DYR. He says, "Hey Jake, when more circularity finance info or new interview?" I need to talk to Harley again. We might utilize them and Web3 Elite for some of the stuff that we're doing. Very competent team over there. Circulatory finance is fantastic. I think it solves a lot of problems. They're working on real world applications for tokenization of real world assets. Good people. I can definitely have him back on. I'll reach out to him and see, what his schedule looks like and if we can run it up there. Appreciate the request. So noted. Max is put here at the top again. Appreciate you, Max. We do have experts like that in the Beyond Broke Mastermind. We have people come in there and chat. Probably going to do more and more of that, as that continues to progress. So if you like the interviews, if you want a more intimate conversation, we're able to ask questions, that would be the place to do it. Any of the interviews I do on here, it's just going to be back and forth between me and the other individual, and then maybe a few questions at the end. It won't ever be like an actual Q&A where we really just run it down the list like I do here. But we do that in the mastermind. So Tank 20 says, Jacob pulled the trigger and took out $50K from my stock at work and put it into XRP. I believe XRP will be $5 to $10 by the end of 2024. Am I crazy? I don't think you're crazy. I can't give you financial advice, but I can give you DApps. Good job. In my opinion, I think that'll be much better served in the stock market personally. Just looking at indicators, okay? I'm not a TA guy. I'm looking at the economy. I'm looking at different things. I watched Blockchain Backer earlier today. Fantastic channel. If you guys don't follow him, I would recommend highly. He talked about the double top that came in 2007, and when the Fed pivoted and started lowering interest rates, and we saw a downturn in the stock market, and then it rallied to one new high and then turned over. Kind of in the same situation here that could trend, play out over the next 2 months. The ECB did announce today that they're going to drop 100 basis points before the end of the year, or 1% on their interest rate. They tend to be a leading indicator for the Fed because if the euro is slightly stronger than the dollar, but if we didn't do that in tandem with them, we would crush their currency. Same thing we're doing to Japan right now. As long as we remain the reserve currency, which I still think that the dollar, even in this new system that we migrate to, will still play a major role in global transactions, right? People are just so used to it. Most things are denominated in dollars. It's probably still going to be a major player. We still have the world's largest GDP, so we will sit as a very big spot in the SDR, if that's the way things go. A lot of people think we moved to an ESDR. So anyway, I think that the stock market's going to probably head significantly lower before the end of the year. Could be wrong about that. Maybe we rally. If they let the currency collapse, we'll get a melt up in the stock market. It won't be the other way. But traditionally, they've allowed the stock market to collapse, deflationary influence to come in, recession to happen, which decreases demand. That was one of the other conversations that Mikkel and Josh Barban were having on Twitter earlier today. If you guys don't know who they are, again, encourage you to follow both of them. And we're talking about macroeconomics and how Tesla had let go of employees because there's nobody new coming into the workforce. All the jobs are spoken for, but there's still a need for more jobs. So how do you remove the need for more jobs? You have a recession. And then that'll bring it to the mean. The amount of people that exist in the economy that can participate in the jobs would meet the demand, right? So anyway, I think that you made a good choice there. Just my opinion, though. Rory, yeah, they hooked it up, man. R3, hooking it up with the swag. I'll tell y'all, Max, my business partner, that's all he ever wants from companies that we work with. He just I just want a coffee mug. And he finally got some coffee mugs today after how long have we been, 16, 17 months working together. He finally got a coffee mug from somebody else aside from our own business. So, I got 1 million views and he got the coffee mug. Today was a good day. Let's see here. Dustin Bowers says, looks like Washington going to force the oil spike. Reuters article from a few days ago, Iran oil sanctions in U.S. and aid package for Iran. Maybe that's the catalyst. I'm looking for it. That's the domino that I'm looking to kick over to force Japan to start dumping treasuries is going to be oil spiking. And again, it likely will have something to do with the Middle East. So that would make a lot of sense, Dustin. Appreciate you bringing that to my attention. Hey, cool. Good morning from Denmark. Very cool. BM says, you mentioned earlier that XRP is your sole investment. Do you hold any IPO shares of Ripple? If not, what's your reasoning behind it? Yeah, I've got exposure to that too. That's through the funds that we run, though. So we do run private funds in the Mastermind group. We put those together and we source different pre-IPO stocks. I can't talk about what we're raising for publicly currently. That's only privy to Mastermind members, but we do have previous raises that we have closed for private equity in Ripple. And those shares were averaged at like $25 or $26 a share on those deals, which is pretty low in comparison to some of the other places that you'll find it. So anyway, yeah, I do have an allocation to that and exposure to it. And I think both is a killer deal. I don't know which one happens first. I really believe that XRP goes first and then Ripple gets the IPO. But you never know. Maybe Ripple IPOs and then XRP goes, and then maybe you can roll those sweet IPO gains into some more XRP before it happens. We'll just have to see. Yeah, appreciate you becoming a member of the channel. Try to do these every Monday and Wednesday and provide you guys some value. We are running on an hour and 20 minutes here, so I'll probably hang out for another. I'm going to try to make it through the chat. I don't know if I am. I'm about halfway down. So if I haven't answered your question yet, I apologize. I'm going to try to hammer through these and get to it. Michael Anthony says, GTN paid off earlier this week over 53 million of debt, which 19 investors bought $8 to $9, and 2 insiders bought 10,000 shares at $8.09 on March 28th. All great news last week. Hey, glad to hear it. I'm glad people see, those are the kind of cool stories that I like to see when people make an investment, take a chance, build something, and then get a return. Matty G with the 589. Thank you, brother. Yeah, I think a lot of people poo-poo on people when they have success. I don't know if there's insecurities or I don't know. I just see it a lot of the time. People are excited and they might say something on social media, and then people immediately hound them or tell them, they suck. And I'm like, why wouldn't you just celebrate somebody and their accomplishments? We try to foster that in the Mastermind group. I guess it's just a certain type of people that we don't really allow in or don't want to deal with us. I don't know which it is, but that doesn't tend to happen in there, which is nice. I'm really glad we've been able to cultivate the culture that we have. Here we go. XRP Pappy says, I have a CEO looking to raise a few $1 million for a Web3 project. Are you able to assist me with this? Tied to Morgan Stanley. I'm green, but looking to structure my first deal and need help. Yeah. So I don't know that I can help you raise money for the deal, but I can, Syndicately is the platform that we own. Happy to help you spin up an SPV on that platform, which is a special purpose vehicle. That's exactly the reason that you would do that. That can operate as a Reg D fund, either a 506B or 506C. That's how we register with Edgar and the SEC. We file those forms for you through the website. A lot of it's automated. It's very easy to use. You're able to send people a link. They're able to commit to the deal, collect the capital, and then deploy it. And it's all done in a regulated, compliant way. So happy to show you that. If you want to email me, we can walk through the platform and I can show you, how it would work. The other benefit there is normally when you do spin up an SPV, if you contract a lawyer, they're going to charge you somewhere between $15,000 and $30,000 to draft the documents required to do that. When you use our platform, it's a big old $0 free to get started and do that. So we do take our money on the backside of the raise, but it's far less expensive to work with our platform than it is to have all the other professionals and the attorneys and everything else involved to do that the traditional way. So trying to democratize access to raise money for anything. Private equity is definitely one of those. And so if you'd like to spin up a deal, we're happy to help you do that. Let's see here. Let's scroll on down. Oh, T Boone, how are you, brother? Tyler, glad to see that you are in the chat. Kevin Doherty, how are you, sir? He says, hey, Jake, how about the 2 SEC lawyers resigning? And will there be any ripple effects? Haha, no pun intended. Oh, he says pun intended on the Ripple suit. We saw comments from both Stuart Alderati and Brad Garlinghouse around that today. They are not shy about sharing their opinions about the SEC and what's going on there. I think the SEC's fallen out of favor with most of the courts at this point because of the stuff that they've tried to pull and do through regulation by enforcement instead of providing clear guidelines. And it's pretty apparent at this point. And there needs to be precedent set in some of these cases. Again, my point earlier, if they were to put out a framework where people could come to market in a regulated and compliant way, I think that would provide benefit. So I don't know that this instance of these 2 people leaving from the deal with Debtbox, it's not against the suit with Ripple that they left. So I don't know that it'll have any impact on that case in particular, but it's definitely not a good look for the SEC. Let's see here. Yeah, absolutely. Epic results. I enjoy doing this. Everybody asks really good questions. Everybody's very respectful, and I'm happy to spend my time with you guys, providing value where I can. T-Boone, I don't know what you're doing in the chat, man, but you are lighting it up. Here we go. Don Pond says, vote John Deaton. I agree. If you're in the state and you have the opportunity, I would say vote John Deaton over Senator Warren. Scotty J. I like my Decent over most others. Yeah, Decent, like I said before, Decent wallet is kind of my go-to when it comes to cold wallets. We use institutional custody for our clients at Digital Ascension Group. We do have that partnership with Standard Custody and Trust in New York. So if you do want to custody your assets in institutional custody, there's only 2 things that are required for that. Well, we can only custody Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP, Solana, Avalanche, Chainlink, Matic, and then a bunch of DeFi protocols is what we can hold for clients. And the 2 caveats there, they need to be held in a trust or an LLC, and they need to be north of $100,000 in total value when they're moved in there. If they fall below that after that, it's fine. And it can be cumulative value of all the assets. So let's say you had, 30,000 Bitcoin, 30,000 Ethereum, 40,000 XRP. That qualifies, you're good to go. So happy to help people with that if that's something you're interested in. Let's see. T-Bone says, hey man, love the show format. Is there any time you'd prefer to cash out over taking loans? Good question. If I'm able to offset the tax implications, or I didn't have the options on the loans, or the interest rate on the loans were too high, it just didn't make sense. Yeah, there's definitely circumstances in which, I would just weigh my options, right? I would see what the interest rates were for the loans, see if that worked with the investment thesis that I had, and I was still going to be able to make profit enough on the investment if I took out the loan versus cashing it out. And then also, depending on the investment, like, let's say it's a real estate property, I'm able to use cost seg on that and then bring forward the depreciation to offset the tax implications, right, on the cash flow and then originally what I took for the profit. If I'm, going to buy a jet or something else large like that, probably going to take cash out. I'm probably not going to do it with a loan because I'm going to have I don't want double debt on an asset. Unless, again, it's cash flowing enough that I can offset and service the debt and then have extra above that. So let's say, say my loans against the XRP in particular are at an 8% interest rate, and I'm able to deploy that capital into a property that's going to be cash on cash at 13 or 14% per year. Okay. Now I've got 5 or 6% extra every single year. I'm still gonna have to service the debt on that property. I don't know, man. I don't know if I'm going to be able to cover the debt and be able to get my nut to be able to cover my expenses and whatever else I need. So in that circumstance, I may just go ahead, if interest rates were lower, let's say they were 3%, 4% like they were years ago, just a few years ago. Now there's a bigger margin there, right? If it's still going to be cash on cash at 13 or 14%. And the way that you're going to get that is you're going to look for a property that you're going to have to add renovations to and then up the rents in. It's going to have to be in a secondary or tertiary market. It's probably not going to be, more than a $20 million property. So this is a specific instance. There are other circumstances which you can generate that type of cash flow, but they're rare. You're going to be looking for, if it's a primary location, there's going to have to be a large influx of people and justification to raise rents. So anyway, I would just weigh those things out. I would understand what I'm going to buy, the cash flow, and what I'm going to be looking for. So maybe I don't even know exactly the property or whatever I'm going to be buying business, but I know that this is the amount of cash flow that I need above and beyond the amount of debt that I'm going to take with the loan to service it and be to the green every single month and cover whatever other I'm looking to do. If I can't do that, then I'm probably going to liquidate in cash, incur the tax implications, purchase whatever it is, make sure that I can offset those tax implications reasonably, and then just take the full amount every single month and own that outright, or have some debt on it, but I'm able to service that debt easily with the cash flow off of the asset. So that's how I would walk through that. So there's definitely circumstances in which I would sell one asset to buy another one, as long as I have a way to offset the tax implications and understand the benefits and cons. Sorry, rambled on there, but hopefully that was understandable. Let's see. I'm going to try to get on down to the bottom of the list here because I am going to cut it here in about, what time is it? Maybe another 15 minutes or so. Let's see. Mighty Tone. Will they be able to walk down the street if they were $1 trillion without Secret Service? Brad doesn't go anywhere without like 3 or 4 bodyguards already. Okay, so no. he already has private security all the time. We have private security for our clients, if that's something that you need or would be interested in. It's something that I will definitely be utilizing on the other side of price appreciation when I go places. Not that I, maybe have or haven't already. So anyway, you got to think about those things, right? So I don't know. With benefits comes cons. Okay. Nothing is all upside. There's always problems that come along with benefits. And you just need to know that going in, right? There's going to be things when I'm very public facing. In order to accomplish my mission and my goal to be able to help people, I have to be. Do I want to be? Not necessarily. I would love to just stand in the background, not be known, and just be, completely, non-disclosed, nondescript. Nobody knows who I am and make a ton of money. But for what I've been called to do, like I talked about earlier, I can't do that. This is a requirement. And for all the bad that comes along with it, if I am able to help people and provide value, then it's worth it. But there's other things I have to think about, right? And so same thing for Brad, same thing for Chris, same thing for everybody else involved there. People are going to know. It's a public ledger. They know what accounts are associated with Chris Larson at this point. And that's probably something that's going to happen to everybody else too. This is a public ledger. And that's why I also encourage people to have a trust or an LLC that owns the assets that can be KYC'd to the wallet, because you may not want your personal name associated with that on a public network. I don't know that that's going to be the case, but people can figure things out, and you want to have those things in place and access to security and other things if you're going to need them. So, Mighty Tone, they definitely are going to have some security around them. I would. You can afford it. Let's see here. Heath Henderson says, if the government prints trillions and then eventually someone is going to be a trillionaire, a billionaire was a fantasy in early 20th century. I think it's all relative, these numbers are hard to conceptualize as an individual. Like nine zeros, even if you get $100 million, like that, you can't spend that much money. If you have it anywhere earning interest, and you're not being super lavish with your lifestyle and buying companies or sports teams or jets or anything crazy, and you're not just burning through the capital, even if it's at 5% a year, you're making $5 million. You could have it in treasuries and make $5 million a year. It's pretty good living, you pretty much have complete financial freedom with $5 million a year in income passive. You can go as you please, do as you please. You can fly private all the time if you want to, tap jets or another service. You can have the nice house, all the cars, go on vacations, whatever you want. But yeah, I think it's hard for people to conceptualize what that actually means and how much money that is. There's kind of a difference. So early 20th century, the dollar was worth a lot more than it is today. So if you were, who am I thinking of here? Rockefeller, who is U.S. Steel? Anyway, there was a couple different people that amassed huge fortunes that were actually richer than Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos today in the early 20th century. But they had less numerical wealth than they have today. But because of the amount of money that's been printed, the inflation's actually eaten away. So Elon Musk, this is going to sound crazy, Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos are poorer than Rockefeller and the other gentleman that I can't think of his name. So think about that, right? In tangible value that was exchangeable in the economy, they actually had more money back then than these people have. But the numerical value that people place on it is higher now than it was then. So it's all relative, right? And I'll say this too. I want to go back to this real quick. You only get as much as you feel you're worthy of or that you can fathom. So if you don't believe you're worthy of a certain amount of money, or you can't comprehend, you having that amount of money, you won't ever have it. You're only capped by your ambitions and what you believe is capable or what you're capable of having. I know that sounds like some frou-frou, woo-woo stuff, but I've seen it. I've seen people, and what's crazy is you might even get beyond it, but if you don't believe that you are deserving of it, you'll regress back to the amount that you believe you're deserving of, or that your skills and beliefs and traits mandate, right? So if you aren't qualified to get to that point, that's why people that become, lottery winners go bankrupt in 3 to 5 years, because they don't have the skills, traits, or beliefs to be able to handle that amount of money. And so those resources end up flowing back into the economy and they move away from them. So you need to become the person that would be able to wield that amount of money if you are going to have it. And those resources tend to accumulate toward the people that have that skill set, is what I would say. So let's see here. This is a good one. And we'll probably take a couple more and then we'll close it out. Where do you see XRP's price versus Ripple IPO? I think they both go to 589. For real though, I think that's probably pretty similar. I think they'll probably be a very similar price within a couple years. Maybe by the end of this year, they're probably the same price. Whether that's 3 or 4 digits, I don't know. My thought on IPO, you mentioned IPO specifically. I think Ripple will probably be the largest IPO that's ever happened. It'll be a direct listing, which is different than a traditional IPO, is my prediction. And I think that they'll IPO somewhere around $100 billion valuation, which would be almost double Saudi Aramco, which was currently the largest IPO in history. And that would put their stock price somewhere between $500 and $600, maybe $589. If I was Ripple, that's what I would do. And then XRP, used at scale, could easily be those prices also. So, ROI is a little bit different on those, but both I think are still fantastic opportunities. Let's see here. Epic Results says, hey Jake, what would happen to the value of my XRP because it's a USDT pair? It's in my wallet. Just curious. Thanks again. Anything that has liquidity provided to it by USDT, if it were sanctioned, would be impacted. Now, what's the other side of that look like if liquidity were to move from that ecosystem into something else? I mean, we all kind of hope we know where that goes. But in the short term, when that were to occur, I think that your XRP would go down in price just like everything else that would be impacted by the pair to USDT. Here's one Max has put in here. There's still a few tickets available to the Digital Asset Dinner in Arkansas on June 4th at 21 West End Restaurant. If you guys want to come to that, there's I think there's an eBright event. Maybe it's on Luma. I don't remember where we put it, but if you do have interest in that, it's $25. That covers a drink and hors d'oeuvres. I will be there. Max will be there, and a few other people from the Mastermind, along with some other good friends. And it's really just kind of a digital asset get together. I'll be there to answer questions and go over things and speak a little bit. And so if that's something you're interested in, we'd love to have you. Just reach out and we'll send you the invite. And as he's pointing out here, it is also in the Mastermind group, easily accessible for people that do join. Matty G. I still think about the YouTuber every time I say your name, brother. He was the first guy that ever interviewed Quincy, and that thing went viral. Little Irish guy. He's funny. He said, any luck getting with T to agree to do a live stream with you? I think there's a lot of value there. Also, hey, Max. T and I have done a few streams together, mostly on Twitter Lives. And I've always enjoyed those. He has really good insights. He's always respectful, even when we do have difference of opinion on things. And I have a lot of respect for him and what he does. He has a much deeper technical prowess than I do. I think I bring some financial expertise to the table that maybe he doesn't have. And so we do have a lot of really good, insightful conversation when we are together. I know that he doesn't necessarily want to be as public facing, right? Like he doesn't have a driving goal similar to myself. He's done what he has up to this point out of the goodness of his heart, just to make people aware of some of the transition that's occurring, but he doesn't really like the limelight. And I think that he will take a step back. He's already deleted his channel multiple times. He doesn't do well with some of the criticism that comes along with this. I try not to just, most people are very encouraging, which I really do appreciate everybody on here. And again, just the culture and the respect that's in the ecosystem. But there are a few people out there that, say not so nice things, which is fine. That's expected. It's just part of the deal. But he doesn't necessarily like that. And he probably has more of it than I do for whatever reason. But yeah, if I can get him on, I would definitely do it. I don't know what we've discussed. I'd like to go over the new protocols or the amendments that I mentioned at the beginning of this. Maybe the atomic swap component, the lend, borrow, and yield, 56, 64, 65, and 66. Maybe I could have an active discussion with him on those because, again, he's got a little bit more technical expertise, similar to like Vet. If you guys don't follow Vet on Twitter, I think it's Vet XO or OX, one of the two. He runs a validator on the XRPL. Extremely intelligent individual, but they have a difference, I think, between me and them because I'm not as technical as I'm able to kind of break things down and simplify them a little bit more. And I relate them to things that would be tangible for people or relatable, whereas they live in that world, so everything's tangible or relatable to them, and they have a hard time correlating that to the average person. So, but yeah, would definitely love to get him on. All right, down here to the bottom. Thank you for the super chat, James. He says, "Go XRP in 2024." Thank you, Jake, for the info. You're very welcome, brother. Appreciate you hopping in the chat here and for your super chat. Hope you have a wonderful evening. Zoomed out says, if you don't like the R3 hoodie, I'll take it. No, I like the R3 hoodie. I just didn't wear it tonight because I'm sporting my new coffee cup and the red tee, to match. But yeah, I do enjoy it, and I'm proud to wear it and be a partner of theirs for what we're building. ISO Lad, appreciate you on the super chat, brother. He says, I'm off to bed. But I want people to consider checking out the Mastermind. It's invaluable and will help people level up their learning. Yeah, I'm glad to have people like you in the community, brother. And just continues to grow and continue to get more and more people that have professional expertise. I had a few other people reach out to me that have, good resumes the other day that wanted to be part of the ecosystem. And just blows my mind that such wonderful people would want to participate. Just feel really blessed and grateful to have you guys there with me and to be a leader in that community for everybody. So thank you again for the super chat. Gail, thank you too. She says video game controller hobbies along unhappily with a broken arm. Dang, man. I hope you didn't break your arm. If you did, I'm going to pray for you, Gail. I'm sorry to hear that if that happened. I hope you feel better. Let's see here. Ellis says Jake benches 300 pounds. I bench 365 for 5. So I don't know what my max is, but working on it. I'm leveling up my game. Bench press hasn't ever been my strong suit, but yeah, I've been pushing a little bit more here lately and back up to like 240. So we're gonna try to get a little bit bigger again and see what that looks like. It's been a while since I've pushed things. So anyway, thanks for noticing. Thank you. Carnegie, thank you, everybody here, and Vanderbilt. Yeah, everybody. See, such wonderful participation in the chat. Everybody knows who I'm talking about. I just can't think of the name. Andrew Carnegie. Yeah, both him and Rockefeller and Vanderbilt had fortunes that were way beyond what Elon and Bezos and Richard have today. And I know that's like hard to fathom, that amount of money, but I mean, you look at the Vanderbilt's estate and what all they built. It was crazy. They burnt through the money and wasted it. Now, 7 generations later, they do have another family. They have a family office that is trying to reaccumulate that wealth, and they do have prominent people because of their connections, but they're nowhere near where they were, at the turn of the century, in the early 1900s. So it's all relative. And people can argue, does somebody need that much wealth? Again, I would say you are paid in proportion to the value that you provide and how irreplaceable you are. And if you're helping the whole planet, if you're helping billions of people, and you're doing good and creating value for everyone in the world, then I think you should be compensated as such. What you do with that is your prerogative at that point. I would think that you would probably allocate those resources just as well as you did to get to that point. And that's kind of the skill set that you build doing it. Anyway, so that's my thoughts on it. I don't think that people that have that much money are evil. Again, like I talked about before, if you have those beliefs, money is not going to like you. It's not going to stay with you. There are a lot of very good people, genuine, honest, good-hearted. We're just really good people that I've met that have had large amounts of money, and they've done that through helping a lot of people. So, JP Morgan and Schwab were 2 other ones that JP Morgan still got a lot of money. He has got the bank. Anyway. Edward says, I emailed the inbox. If you can help me buy Ripple IPO, join the mastermind, and we can talk about what we have on the docket and what we have the capability to do in that ecosystem. Again, I can't talk about any of that publicly. We have to run 506Bs in order to allow the sophisticated investors in the group to participate in the deals. When I say sophisticated, that means they are not necessarily accredited, but they meet the qualifications that we deem necessary for a sophisticated investor, and might be retail that are, have the expertise to be able to understand the risk associated with things. So anyway, yeah, I would join that over there and we can have those discussions. There we go. This is a good one to end off with. Appreciate all the help you give here. Very happy to be part of these live sessions. Yeah. Thank you for watching. As always, hopefully this has provided you some value. If you think we can help you in any way, whether through the mastermind or the digital family office, we're happy to do so. Happy to just provide resources. If you're looking for a CPA, accountant, wealth manager, estate planner, setting up an LLC for your digital assets, whatever it might be, we're happy to help you where we can. All you got to do is email us at info@digitalfamilyoffice.io or info@beyondbroke.com. So with that, we'll wrap it up. I hope you all have a wonderful evening, and we will see y'all on the next one.